Welcome back to the Rate Show. My name is Jerzen and I'm joined by Sahan, and this is the show where we talk about tools, techniques, and systems in the world of productivity that we either underrate, overrate, or rate somewhere in between. Sahan, how you doing today?
Jason, I'm doing well, yeah. I spent the last week and a half being like very sick. I had a
Mm-hmm.
double dose of had my second dose of the vaccine, and then schools just started here in the UK, and I think because of that, like all the kids got sick, and my sister brought something home, and so yeah, I've been suffering for the last couple of weeks. Yeah. What about you? How are
All
you doing,
right.
man?
Well, I've been good. I flew back to Riga, so if you've seen the vlog, I mean, if you've seen the podcast before, you realize that this background is very different from what you're used to. And I'm wearing a jacket because it's very cold here. It's about 4 or 5 degrees in the morning, and coming from 30-degree weather, that's a big jump. So I'm still in that adjustment period. I just got here a couple of days ago. So this is the 10th episode of this podcast. So we decided to do something a little different, right, Sahan, where we talk about something a little bit more freestyle, more free flowing manner than our usual episode where we have three things that we talk about, then we have an underrated thing. Maybe we can do an underrated thing later on. But yeah, we'll see how this goes. This is the 10th episode. Maybe we can do this again on the 20th and we'll see how that works out. So we decided the overarching theme for this episode is going to be about taking breaks. Because Sahan right now is taking a break because he is sick, and I've been on a 2-3 month sabbatical from making content
Yeah.
online on YouTube. So I think we have some things to talk about, you know, taking breaks. So let's start with you. You're taking a break right now because you are unwell. I feel like it's a little different from my situation. So do you think it's
Yeah, it
important?
is
And
tough.
mm-hmm.
I think
All right.
so. I think obviously, if you're someone who's into productivity, right, you've always been told. You probably watch videos of people like Michael Phelps or other famous athletes being like, "I never missed a day of training," or for me, it's like people who basically say that it's our habits, repeated habits that just get you into the zone and lead to success. And we know this is the case because of compounding and consistency and things like that. And then sometimes like just life just throws you a curveball and you're just like
Mm-hmm.
out the zone. And I think, yeah, I don't know. I think it's funny because obviously we need breaks, but then like sometimes you'll just get forced to take a break when like you're just in a state of flow in terms of like video production or maybe it's studying or writing. And yeah, it is. Have you ever had a time when like you were just like you had found your mojo and then suddenly something caused you to take a break?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I have, but I think less so now because I changed the way I approach working now, where I would give myself breaks in between while working. So you can it's sort of like a pseudo Pomodoro situation where if I'm doing any sort of work like studying, video editing, scripting videos, or writing articles or whatever, I would give myself a 5, 10, even 15-minute break sometimes now and then every 40 to 50 minutes. My rule is that as soon as I feel myself drifting off and thinking of other things and not focusing 100%, I'll stop working because I know whatever I do right now is going to not give me 100% efficiency. This is a different story if it's time sensitive and that situation I'm probably going to sit down and do it, but I try not to get myself into time sensitive situations in the first place, and I sort of work with that. But life gets in the way and you have some protocols and experiments that you have to do at the last minute. Guilty as charged. So yeah, I just approach it in a different way. Instead of, I feel like it's just better to take smaller breaks now and then than a huge break later on. I feel like that's not a good idea, and you shouldn't really do that because it's much more harder to get back from that. If you can, then sure, go ahead. But I know personally that I cannot do that, so I prefer taking smaller breaks now and then.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So what about so I think like we're talking about almost different things. Like you're talking about like daily breaks, but what about the things that you can only do on like a like you look at from like a weekly or a monthly or a yearly perspective? Like for example, I was listening to an episode of Not Overthinking with Ali Abdal and Tamor, and they were talking about how like when it comes to morning routines, they were saying that so if you take a year for 1 month of every year, they'll have a perfect morning routine. Like Ali's was wake up, have some coffee, write, film a video, and then something happens that like you end up taking a break, whether it's like a holiday, external factors, um, maybe it's sickness, maybe it's some other like family tragedy, whatever, I don't know. But I think it's what I find interesting about these forced breaks is that there's a sense of at least for me, like almost guilt. I don't know, like the idea that I don't know. I think when you're like, let's say you're in the productivity space, and like the goal is to be productive, essentially, whatever that means, and then like you're in a stride of a morning routine, and then I don't know. Sometimes you see, for example, okay, I've got a group holiday coming up, or I know for whatever reason I'm going to be out of my stride, and I'm wondering, do you think there are ways to make sure that you can bounce back from those things? Do you think it's a case of just completely like taking time off and resetting and trying not to even think about being quote unquote productive? Like, what's your thought on like macro breaks or like for your daily or weekly habits?
All right. Do you know what write-off days are? It's from Ali.
I've heard the term, but tell
It's
me about
spelled
them.
REITOFF. Like not write off as in like literally write off, but like RETIOFF, like a pseudonym, basically. And it's essentially when you know those days when you just wake up and you sit down to work but you just don't feel like working and you basically write off the day. You don't do anything that day. That day is basically, like you said, a macro break. So I feel like it's important to do that. I do that now and then, but I also think it's about balance. You're not supposed to take a write-off day, like 3 times a week or something. That's being lazy essentially. And yeah, I think it's you should take macro breaks, but it's all about taking it at the right times so you can rejuvenate and then get back to what you were working on. I feel like that's important. That's sort of what I'm doing with my YouTube channel anyway, because I had so many things going on right now because we started this podcast. I had my blog back then, which I shut down now, but then I still have my newsletters that I'm writing, also working on a secret project with Penelope. So all these things together, along with the YouTube channel, it was a lot to handle, along with being a full-time medical student. It was just way too much for me to handle. So in that situation, I just decided that I need to cut one thing off and take a macro break for that thing. And I chose YouTube because that usually took up the most energy and time. In hindsight, that wasn't a really good idea because that's going to tank my analytics. Yath Prem, another YouTuber, just made a video recently about how he took a sabbatical in his final year of medical school from YouTube, and he noticed that his analytics were dropping, and it was just getting worse. He wasn't getting as many subscribers and views as he used to before he took the break. And I anticipate a similar situation for me, but I feel like in the long run, it's okay because, it's just a small little setback. And I don't really completely regret making YouTube my cutoff item, but yeah. So I think macro breaks are important. Well, what's one macro break that you took recently?
Um, I guess so. I haven't posted a video in maybe like well, probably 3 weeks now. But that
Mm-hmm.
was, I mean, it wasn't a planned thing. It was like, I think I had a week where I was thinking about where to take the channel, and then I got sick. But I think it's funny because, so what I find difficult balancing, right, is like you said, in the long term, even though you've taken these months off, if you look at like the long term, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, that's not going to affect you. Like, but my issue is, I know that like I have that knowledge inside my brain, but there's this feeling of like, so I came to the end of the week, maybe like a couple of days ago, and I was like, I feel like crap. Like, why? And I realized it's because I hadn't created anything. Like, I've been in a practice now for like every week I put something out on the internet, whether it's like a video, a podcast, a tweet, and I was like, dude, why do I feel so like down? And it's because I hadn't done anything, and I was like, holy! Like once I realized, I was like, mind blown. Like it's great. Like just so apparently for me, all I need to do is post stuff. I mean, it's not quite that simple, but as long as I post stuff, I'll like have a sense of satisfaction. But then I was like, yeah, I don't know. It's weird trying to balance like the individual feelings of that we have as like human people, and then these like
Mm-hmm.
mental models that we know are like contain the truth. Yeah.
You should start a newsletter. That's all I can say from that because I feel like a newsletter is very low friction to start and do. It's free. You just have to write something up and you just send it to emails. It's hard to grow with, but even if it's to like 10 people, I think it's worth it. And I think it's one of those things where you're still creating content because you can put it online. If you're using something like Substack or Review, it's still going to be there like a blog post and it's also going to be sent out as an email. And I feel like that's a good way. That's what I usually do when I have one of those weeks where I'm not doing anything, where I'm not, tweeting anything or making videos or anything like that. But this then begs the question that do we have to do it every week? Are we like tied to some chain right now? Do you think we are? Because you said that it actually affected you, like emotionally and physically. And I don't think that's necessarily right because, we should make content when we want to make it. So what do you think about that?
That's a good do that. It's a good question. I think I think it's a bit like the gym, in that
Mm-hmm.
I don't think 1 week off necessarily matters. But when 1 week becomes 2 weeks, becomes 3 weeks, it's then a bit like you are like for me, the gym is very similar in that it's like a physical thing and a mental thing. And when you take time off, like you also know coming back is going to be harder. And so, like, I think what I struggled with was like I knew I could have made a video. Like, obviously, I got sick for like 2 weeks, right? And I was like, it's been 3 weeks, and that first week I could have like done something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I don't. I'm not sure because it's a bit like so. So I see where you're coming from, but I do think these are like healthy habits, like whether it's like creating content or making videos. But yeah, no, it's a good question. Like, should you be having this
Feeling
like
of
this feelings for
like
it?
should you
Because
be having
it's
this
a
feeling of yeah. Sorry, go ahead, please.
no. It's I was gonna say
Uh,
it's almost like your Yath Prem thing. It's like if you like notice your analytics going down, should that really be affecting you or not? And I assume it did affect it because it is tough. Like
he did
yeah,
make a video
it
about
is
it. Mm-hmm.
it is a really interesting question as to like being a creator and how that affects your like your vibe, your aura, your mental health, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like that's true. But oh well, like you said, in the long run, 5, 10 years, it's not going to really matter that much. If it's more short term, then sure. And I feel like this just jumps back to what Ali Abdal always says that where if you want to create content online, for example, YouTube, you have to be consistent for a very long amount of time, and that's what gives you, you know, the subscriber count or follower count or whatever you're looking for. Great. So, let's talk about other news. What's been new with you?
So I'm about to start my degree, my postgraduate degree
Mm-hmm.
at UCL, and
That's
I went
fun.
onto campus for the first time. Dude, so fun, so fun. I've never studied in London. When so basically when I was 17, deciding where to go to university, like there's a big decision. Like, do you stay in London with all your same mates, or do you leave and go somewhere else? And I chose to leave, but in the back of my mind, I've always been like I would have loved to live in like and study in London because when you're an undergraduate, you get like student accommodation, like right in the centre. Like I had a friend living next to the Shard, another living next to London Eye, like places you cannot afford. Like when you're basically post that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really interested to see what it's like studying in London, yeah, and just to be like I don't know, like mentally challenged, not mentally challenged, but like as a teacher, the sort of problems you come across are very different to the problems you come across as like a student or a researcher. They're more dealing with people and individuals and almost like management rather than like intellectual. So yeah, should be fun.
Right. Okay. That's exciting. I mean, I am a student. I'm a full-time student. I've been one for the past 2.5 years, so I would say that it's a fun lifestyle if you do stuff right. I feel like if you manage your time well as a student, you can actually have fun, study well, and then also maybe do something on the side. There's no like it's all about like I said, managing your time. There's never this thing where you have no time. It's just that you decided to do something else that you prioritized over something else that could have been a little bit more fulfilling or productive or whatever. So that's great. I'm excited for you. Don't your
Yeah,
classes start in a week or two, if I remember correctly? On
yeah,
the
like a week
23rd
or
or
two.
something? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly, man. But dude, I'm still pretty jealous of you though, because obviously I'm living at home, and you
Mm-hmm.
just moved to Riga, dude, and living by yourself, man. Oh, it's so like obviously I love living with my parents, but it's a different vibe. Such a different vibe when you're by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How are
I
you
get
finding
that
it?
because Um, so like I said, I've been living alone ever since I moved to Riga, which was about 2.5 years ago. And the longest I've stayed with my parents after moving was right now, when I went back to Dubai in January, or sorry, in December, where I was there for 9 months. I feel like it's fun. It has its perks. You're obviously with your family, but there are some things that when you're living alone, you have more freedom to do things with your own schedule. So I feel like that's a little bit more nicer for me. Maybe that's me being an only child speaking, where I'd like things to be my own way, but yeah. Um, The thing is, for me, living alone wasn't ever difficult. Like I never had that difficulty phase because I feel like I know all the basic things that I need to live alone. Like I can go
Mm.
out and get stuff by myself. Um, there's so many things that you can just order and get delivered now, which is very easy. And I know how to cook. Like I'm not living away. I'm not living on takeaways, and that's one skill that I feel like has been very, very helpful for me with my move to Riga because I learned to cook when I was about 15 or 16. I was home alone and I was like, all right. So I saw this video online. It was by Tasty. Do you remember those Tasty videos where there was like
Oh yeah, of
from the
course,
top,
dude.
really easy
Like
recipes?
so
So I tried doing
saturated.
those. Yes, exactly.
Dude, so saturated.
Do they still make those though? Like I see, there's so many other channels like that though, like Goodful and a lot more. But or does
Yeah, dude.
Tasty
I
make
feel like there's
videos
been
anymore?
like a little break.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's been like a break off. As in, you have like those channels now, and then they like I don't know. Do you remember Bon Appetit? Did you ever watch Bon Appetit
I do. Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
before the massive scandal? I feel like you now have like cooking things like Tasty, which are just like almost I feel like they're perfect TikTok now in a way. Like they're just like very saturated, very quick. And then you have
Yeah.
like the human creators like
Babish.
obviously Bon
Do you know
Appetit and
Babish?
like Babish is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Even the people who what was that show where they went around and did three different things at three different price points?
Oh,
Worth
I
it.
remember what it
Oh,
was
dude,
called.
worth it.
Worth It. Exactly. Yeah. Wasn't
Yeah.
that by BuzzFeed? I feel like it's all under
Yeah.
one umbrella. Yeah.
Oh, dude, food YouTube. Oh, man, I'm a big fan. Yeah. But dude,
Yeah.
I agree. Cooking. If there's cooking, especially if you're like a single guy or a girl, to be honest, it's essential. And what I find funny is that you have to cook every day, essentially. But still, people
Mm-hmm.
manage not to learn after moving out, which I find like
It's a little. Yeah. I feel like it's just so much more useful. Like, if you take away one thing from this episode, let it be that you should learn how to cook. It's much cheaper, it's tastier, and it's going to be much more healthy in the long run because you don't have to necessarily eat out every day. You're probably going to buy ingredients from the grocery store, which are going to be a little bit more nicer and a little bit more healthier. You can choose vegetables and, yeah, go ham with it. Another thing that happened last week was I finally became a legal adult everywhere in the world. I turned 21.
congratulations.
That's one way to put it. Thanks, man. But yeah, I'm finally past the child stage, I guess. But yeah, turned 21.
What did you do to
And,
celebrate?
not much actually, because I had a couple of things to do that day with visa procedures and all of that. So in the evening, I went out with my parents for dinner. That was pretty much it, and it wasn't anything extravagant, but I enjoyed it. It was pretty wholesome, being with my parents, talking with them, having dinner. Really good dinner. We went to this hotel at Palm Jumeirah, the little island that looks like the palm tree.
Ah,
So yeah, we went there. Pretty cool. And yeah, other than that, what's new? Oh, I hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. Finally.
dude, that's a little moment of applause. 1,000
Thank
subs,
you.
huge,
Mhm.
huge. Well done,
Yeah.
man.
I need 1,500 more watch hours and I can finally get monetized. I'm not expecting that anytime soon though, because I feel like that's a long way to go. Monetization is just a whole different story, but
Yeah.
it's fun to see that. I started this last November, not expecting anything. I remember telling myself that you're probably going to hit 1,000 subscribers in 3 years, 4 years if you are, consistent with your videos and stuff. But I feel like I hit the jackpot. We hit the jackpot with Remnote and making Remnote videos and just doing things for working with them. I feel like that's been a really good experience. Like it's great. Exciting news is coming up though with Remnote. So if you're not subscribed to our channels and if you use Remnote, make sure you subscribe to our channels and then you'll be
Definitely.
the first to know about all of that. So yeah, that's exciting.
It's so cool. Would you say your growth was like linear? Like, for example, would you say over the course of, I guess, almost 12 months, did you have like 2 to 3 subs every like 3 months? Or have you seen like a sort of increase
I
in
noticed a very
subscribers?
linear increase in my subscribers. It was always 100 subscribers a month. So I started my channel in November and December to now September. Oh, well, let's say August because it's just the beginning of September. It's always been 100 subscribers per month. Like it's been 10 months now. I have 2 more months till November and I hit 1,000, and that was very very equal. It was always 100, 100, 100. And even when I took my sabbatical, I did notice a little drop in view count and all of that, but then it started to pick up, and now it's actually on a very upward trend, which is kind of exciting. And it's great to see that because now I'm planning on making videos again. So I'm going back to an audience, not just nothing, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's exciting to see, and I feel like I have the chance right now. I can be really lazy and not make videos and just squander it all, but if I'm not, then I feel like I can work with it and maybe something can happen. Let's see. Let's stay optimistic.
Yeah, dude. I think that is one of the cool things about YouTube. Is like every time you hit a new milestone, it's just like it just feels like another chance to like keep growing and keep learning.
Well, I mean, sure, I feel like there is one aspect of that, but I feel like you shouldn't be very dependent. I feel like when you think about things that way, you become very dependent on those numbers. Like you would tell yourself, like, oh, I need 1,000 subscribers. I think it's a more healthier approach to not think of the numbers and just try to be consistent with it until you get to some point where, it's probably funding your lifestyle or just it's helping you make money. It's a good source of passive income. I feel like until that point, you shouldn't really think about the numbers because it can go either way and it can be very motivating or very demotivating. There's no in between. So I think it's important to not think about the numbers. Do you agree
Yeah,
with
no.
that or do you think it's
Yeah, I think you're
different?
right. I think you're right.
Mm-hmm.
In that, I feel like if you the problem is having a number as a goal, in and of itself, it's a bit like, well, once you hit that goal, there's just going to be another milestone, and so it could feel like a long, I don't know, like hedonic treadmill in a way. Like you hit 1,000, it's like okay, now I need 10,000, now I need 50,000. But I don't. I think when you're small, I think like there is some power in being like now I have 1,000 subscribers. I could like I don't know like I can start like a little side project for these subscribers, or I can like focus on my newsletter more, or I can try this new fun content. I think there's a way of taking that achievement and turning it like into less of a where's my next 9,000 and more of like
Mm-hmm.
this
All
is
right, now
awesome
I
and
have a
like
different opportunity, sort of like
yeah
that. Mm-hmm. All right, okay,
yeah
that makes sense. I don't know. I haven't really thought about that. Do I really want to do something different? I mean, I am planning on doing something different. I only make Remnant videos now, but I'm planning on making videos a little bit more personal. I want. I feel like you have two different types of subscribers. You can have subscribers that like your content, and you can have subscribers that like you. They like your
yeah
personality. They like the way you present stuff. And I feel like I have more of the content subscriber right now, and I'm trying to get an equal match for both because that's how you grow. You can get different kinds of people to like your channel. That way you can even make more different types of videos, and that's you can get to more people that way. So I feel like that's pretty great. Right. So, do you want to slowly start wrapping up this episode? I feel like it was a
yeah
short and
cool
sweet episode. Mm-hmm.
yeah. Do you have anything that's underrated for the week or?
Let me check because I actually might. I've been reading quite a bit more now, so I might actually find something.
For those who don't know, I fired shots at Jerzen in one of our meetings, accusing him of not reading enough. Uh,
Yeah, I feel like
so
shots
clearly
are a
it's not
little underrated.
what's a couple shots between the boys, but yeah. But what have you been reading, man? Like, is it just like self help or fiction or what's the vibe?
Articles. I've been using that website that you mentioned. What was it called? Readsomething.great.com. And I saved it as a little app icon on my iPad. So that's the first thing that I click every morning. And I try to read at
Oh,
least
spicy.
for 20 or 30 minutes. It's great. Love it. It's one of the best things I've ever actually started using. Oh, okay. I love this one. So this is about money, okay? But I don't feel like I have enough experience to talk about this, but it's definitely something that I want to personally do when I do make enough money to actually buy my own things. I think it's important to buy your luxuries last. Like, if you get a huge sum of money from your salary or whatever, it's not a smart idea to go out and buy something that you really want. So, obviously, this thing is different depending on how much the money is. So, for example, if you get $1 million, if you hit the lottery, let's say that's a good example. If you hit the lottery, you hit $1 million. Bless you. If you hit a Okay, so if you hit the if you win the lottery and you make $1 million, I don't think it's a good idea to go out and buy a house or a car or something like that. You shouldn't buy a luxury first because that's just going to become a liability. And this comes from that what do you call that thing? The book
Rich
Rich
Dad
Dad
Poor
Poor
Dad.
Dad. Exactly, where you have to build your asset column first and not the other one. So yeah, I think that's something that it's sort of an underrated thing because I don't see a lot of people practicing it. But yeah, when I do make enough money, I feel like this is the method that I'm going to use. Right. So what's your underrated thing of the week?
Uh, So my thing, again, this is like, to be funny, it relates because, so once I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, I think I now have this lens of the things I buy where you just see them as a liability. It's a bit like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if anyone's watched Death Note, but there are these magic glasses that show you how long someone's going to live. It's a bit like that. Whenever
Mm-hmm.
I look at something, I can see like either it's like red, like liability, or green asset. Um, and so basically, what I bought is for, it's basically a bit like a music stand, except it's for like a laptop. So it basically, it's like a stand for a laptop on a tripod, and it has like a thing for your phone, and it means that I can just like work on my laptop anywhere. Like, so one of the things I struggle with, right, is let's say you want to study. Like one of the things that I found that works for me is like bouncing locations. So let's say that I do, if I was at university, do a couple hours in the library, a couple hours in a coffee shop, a couple of hours in like another library. But when you're at home, it's a bit different. And what this thing lets me do is that I can study in any room. Like I can study on the
Mm-hmm.
sofa, I can study like in my room, I can study in the garden if I wanted to. So yeah, I don't know what the actual name is, but I think it's like a laptop stand. Super, super useful.
Yeah. I do use a laptop stand on my table to bring the screen up to eye level because I don't use an external monitor here in Riga. I'm looking to buy one, but when I don't, what I do is I just put it up on the laptop stand so it comes up to eye level, which is better for ergonomics and your neck and whatnot. So yeah, but I've never really traveled with a laptop stand because I feel like a laptop is just portable enough. You can just put it on a table to start working away.
Yeah.
But for extended periods of time, I feel like it's very okay. Here's another underrated thing. It's a bonus underrated thing. If you work on a laptop at home, which I know a lot of people are doing, if you're a student or because of the pandemic, I think it's very important to invest in a laptop stand, an external keyboard, and an external mouse, because these are going to help your back and your neck so much with ergonomics. It's so bad to be hunched up like this over a laptop on a table because it's just not made to be used that way. It's made to be used, portably when you're out and about. So yeah, I think if you're sitting at your desk for an extended period amount of time, I think it's a worthwhile purchase. So yeah,
Dude, I also saw the coolest thing, right? Where
go ahead.
so I don't know if people are like people listening are on the external like the more than one monitor hype train, but I
Mm-hmm.
100 am like once you start editing videos, or even when I was at university, let's say you have like one thing for notes and one thing for the thing you're reading, dude, like it's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and so I saw this thing on TikTok of all places, where it's this device where you put it onto the back of your laptop, like it's magnetic, so it clips on, and then it pulls out two screens, and like you have,
I've seen that.
so
Mm-hmm.
you suddenly have three
You have
screens, and
three
I was like,
screens.
oh my god, it was like absolute game changer. But it's probably like very heavy and not like the probably tech isn't there right now, but in the future,
That's a
if
good
that was like
concept. Mm-hmm.
cheap and lightweight, I was like, would love
You
that.
can do that. You can do something similar with if you have a MacBook and an iPad. You can use the iPad as a second screen wirelessly. So I usually do that when I go to coffee shops. I can just plop it up on the side. It's very helpful to have more than one screen. I feel like if you work with, for example, with video editing, to see the whole timeline on a big screen, it's great. But if you can see it across two screens, I feel like it's even better. Or you can have the video feed on one screen and the entire timeline on the other. It's very, very helpful. So when I'm out, I would usually put my iPad right beside my laptop and use it as a second screen. But the idea that you were talking about, that's actually pretty cool.